Revealed. In a shocking twist on their wedding day, the millionaire discovered his bride's incredible secret. Jake Thompson's heart raced as he stood at the altar, surrounded by beaming family and friends, all in anticipation of the vows that would bind him to Emily forever. Yet the peace of this sun-drenched afternoon shattered like glass the moment Sarah, Emily's estranged cousin, burst into the chapel. "You don't even know her real name," she screamed, her voice echoing sharply against the stone walls, cutting through the joy like a jagged knife. Stunned murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Jake felt the blood drain from his face. Panic clawed at his throat, while confusion rattled in his chest. Emily? The person who had shared countless late-night study sessions, who had held him through storms of self-doubt? She was hiding something monumental? An icy chill shot through him, a feeling that strangled every memory of their laughter and love. Could she have been living with layers of deceit, maintaining a facade that had become their life? Dark thoughts raced through his mind. What else didn't he know? Jake's professional life had thrived on the pursuit of truth. He demanded it from his students, with a fierce dedication fueled by his own childhood struggles. But now, standing on the precipice of heartbreak, he grappled with the imminent unraveling of everything he thought he understood. Without warning, doubt seeped into his core. The values he held dear, honesty, integrity, stood in stark contrast to the woman he loved. In just a heartbeat, he was swinging between raw love and raw betrayal. That same love had fueled dreams, inspired academic excellence, but had Emily's hidden truths been feeding a different narrative entirely? Was their bond simply a construct of his imagination, painted by hope rather than reality? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake's throat tightened as he took a step closer to Emily, searching her stormy eyes for answers. But all he found was the glimmer of fear and vulnerability that had been hidden beneath her composed exterior. What he once believed to be a transparent partnership suddenly felt like smoke slipping between his fingers, dissolving under scrutiny. Was this then what love was? Movement through shadows, wading through the fog of insecurities, slowly negotiating identities. A part of him wanted to flee, to escape the chaos swirling around them, while another part, to stand, to confront. Yet neither victim nor savior could emerge in the impending storm. The judgment in the air was palpable, and with every passing second, Jake's conviction wavered. Accusations lingered unspoken, whispers of betrayal curled around his thoughts, and time stretched as he faced the impending hour of reckoning. His heart raced with the fear that any resolution may thrust him into an abyss he could never climb out of. Confront the truth, or dismiss the facade? Jake was stuck, teetering on the edge of a decision that could redefine their entire love story. And with that realization came the gut-wrenching question that clawed at him without mercy. Could love truly endure the shadows, or was Emily's revelation the end of their story? The tension in the air hung heavily around Jake as he stood there, every eye trained on the unfolding drama. He could feel the world around him fading, a carousel of blurred faces, each one a reminder of what he thought he had, now overshadowed by doubt. He was fighting against a rising tide of anxiety, an internal conflict cracking through his facade of control. He stepped back, inadvertently creating distance between himself and Emily. Her gaze darted from Sarah to him, a silent plea hanging between them. What was he supposed to do? Questions spun like a tornado in his mind. Who was Emily, really? What had Sarah uncovered? Each new thought transformed into another layer of the labyrinth he found himself trapped in. Jake had built his life as a teacher based on transparency, the belief that knowledge was a key to empowerment. Yet here he was, suffocating under layers of lies, forced to reevaluate everything he stood for. The irony was not lost on him. He had educated generations about integrity, yet the foundation of his personal life was cracking beneath him. "Emily," he finally breathed, his voice barely a whisper, but powerful enough to cut through the din. The chapel fell silent, a vacuum of anticipation demanding answers. He wanted her to explain, but deep down, a part of him trembled at the thought of hearing her truth. The possibilities were overwhelming, none of them comforting. At that moment, Emily stepped towards him. She was no longer the picture of confidence, but stood vulnerable, revealing a truth beyond her secret name. Her hands trembled slightly, a small white lie trying to maintain integrity, crumbling in the spotlight. "I thought I could keep it a secret forever." Emily's voice wavered, punctuated by her emotional struggle. "I didn't want to lose you." Jake wanted to scream, to let out the torrent of confusion and hurt, yet the fortress of his heart waged a silent battle. Would he lose her if he pressed for the truth? But how could he reconcile the warmth of their shared memories with this nascent doubt? Somehow, this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about him, too. The man who believed so fiercely in honesty, yet had built a life under false pretenses. "Do you even know who I am?" he shot back, the bitterness oozing from his words. "How can I trust you when you're standing there, shattering everything I thought I knew?" Emily flinched as though his words were bullets hitting straight to her core. "I'm the same person you fell in love with. I didn't think it mattered. I thought we could be happy without digging into my past." But now revealing her past was unavoidable. Jake's turmoil festered. Was Emily unworthy of love because she had hidden parts of herself? Or was it he who had failed to ask the right questions, to see beyond her polished exterior? The familiar silence of the chapel morphed into an uproar of conflicting emotions, rattling Jake to his core. He felt the inward need to either condemn her for her deception or embrace her with an understanding that could rewrite the narrative. Time stilled. A deep breath filled with unresolved tension escaped him as he contemplated the weight of forgiveness. Would he choose to cling to anger, or navigate the fog of uncertainty and embrace the possibility of her authenticity? As he locked eyes with Emily, the answer hovered between them, an unspoken invitation to either shatter or rebuild. Was he willing to explore the darkened alleys of their love, or retreat to safety? The time was coming to decide, and the stakes could not be higher. Jake found himself on the brink of an unknown territory, facing the truth he feared more than the deception itself. What would a choice of acceptance reveal about his own character, and would love indeed conquer this crumbling foundation? Next, the moment would demand action, and the reckoning loomed just over the horizon. The question remained, what would he discover about himself in the end? As Jake stood in the silence of the chapel, his heart raced beneath the weight of Emily's revelation and his own swirling thoughts. What was supposed to be a day of celebration now felt like a courtroom trial, where he was both the judge and the accused. Every breath he took was laced with anxiety, each heartbeat a reminder of the impending choice he faced, accept or reject. "You don't understand, Jake," Emily implored, her voice trembling. "I thought if I kept my past hidden it wouldn't affect us. I love you enough to want to protect what we have." Protect? The word echoed in his mind, twisting into a bitter knot. Protecting what exactly? Herself or their future? Jake's instinct screamed that love couldn't exist in shadows. Integrity must be at the forefront, yet here he stood, grappling with an unraveling truth that seemed impossibly intertwined with love. "Protect?" he echoed, the sarcasm dripping from his voice. He fought against the sharp edginess threatening to emerge. "By hiding the truth. You've built this entire reality on untruths, Emily. How am I supposed to see anything but deception?" The chapel's cold air wrapped around him like chains. His mind flashed to the students who admired him for his honesty, the very foundation of his teachings now crumbling before his eyes. In the realm of academia, he guided others to confront hard truths, but confronted with his own, he felt paralyzed. What would he teach them if they witnessed this failure? Emily's eyes filled with tears as she stepped closer. "I made a mistake, but you are the one person I believed would understand. You always speak of redemption and growth." Redemption, a heavy word, echoing the lessons he'd imparted to his students. Could there be growth from this turmoil? Or would he allow this moment, this misstep, to define him? He searched Emily's face for the familiar warmth he had fallen for, hoping to dispel the darkness of the moment. "There's no redemption without truth, Emily," Jake replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Each word felt like a question aimed directly at himself. Was embracing the truth of her past the step toward healing, or was it a leap into a chasm he couldn't navigate? As he looked deeper into Emily's eyes, he saw vulnerability mixed with fear. Was it possible that her past didn't diminish them, but rather had the potential to strengthen their bond? He could sense the potential to grow through this, but doubt whispered persistently, reminding him how fragile this journey of love was. In an attempt to pause his racing thoughts, Jake focused on the very essence of his teachings, knowing that every obstacle could lead to learning if approached with an open heart. But would he have the courage to turn his pain into empathy, to see beyond Emily's past? "Tell me everything," he said suddenly, the resolve sweeping through him like wildfire. "No more secrets. If we're going to navigate this together, I need to know it all. Then, I can decide if I'm willing to fight for us." Emily's breath hitched, a mix of relief and dread flooding her features. "Are you sure? It's not just painful. It's complicated." Jake nodded, the quiet intensity of the moment stretching between them, thick with emotional stakes. Wasn't that the essence of love, embracing the complex and the painful in pursuit of something real? He wondered if confronting these truths would unveil a stronger version of himself, a man who could withstand the storm rather than cower from it. He might discover hidden strengths, or perhaps face his greatest fears. And in that moment, as he opened himself to the unknown, the horizon of their relationship appeared before him, a shadowed path waiting for the light of understanding. The question loomed larger than life. Would he step forward into this darkness, armed only with the hope that love could thrive in authenticity? Would his resolve lead to self-discovery or further fracture? His internal battle had only just begun. The faint sound of Emily's breath reminded Jake that the chance to reclaim their relationship flickered like a candle in a storm. He could almost see the words she was blocking, struggling beneath a facade of frustration and fear. That was the crux of life, wasn't it? Learning to prioritize honesty over comfort. Still, when pushed against the wall, doubt clawed at his resolve as he questioned if he was really ready to shoulder the burdens woven into her past. "Okay," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I've been running from this for too long. I thought if I ignored it, I could keep it from tainting our future." The tremor in her voice cut deeper than he expected. As she spoke, Jake felt the air shift. He could no longer view her solely as the woman he loved. Instead, she stood before him as a complex figure entwined with shadows, burdens carried silently. Each fragment of her truth unfurling revealed layers that he had never considered. The chapel dimmed with her confession, but something within Jake ignited. He wasn't here just to listen. He was here to confront. He needed to challenge not only Emily's hidden truths, but also the limits of his own understanding. "Tell me why you felt this was a choice you had the right to make for both of us," he pressed gently, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "I didn't want to drown us both in my past mistakes," she admitted, tears streaking her cheeks. "It's embarrassing, Jake. I was lost involved in things." Her voice trailed off, caught in the web of her shame. His heart raced, anticipation mixing with an unhealthy blend of anger. She was shielding herself, and in doing so she shielded him too. How many times had he encouraged his students to speak their truths, to shed the weight of their ghosts? It was time to execute what he taught. "You thought you'd spare me from painful truths, but those truths are part of you. They shape who you are," he pointed out, trying to keep his tone steady. If he wrestled with his emotions openly, perhaps she would follow suit, shedding her own facade. Emily shifted uncomfortably. "I was involved with people who had no integrity, Jake. I made decisions that didn't reflect who I wanted to be. I thought it wouldn't come back to haunt me. I thought I could just be better." Her confession pierced through his frustration. There it was, the reality that redemption often demanded awareness of one's flaws. And what if we confronted those past choices together? What if this moment wasn't the end, but rather a starting point? The words tasted sweet and bitter, a mixture that evoked fear yet sparked hope. Jake realized he needed to redirect the narrative. He could no longer dwell solely on the weight of her past. He had to integrate it into their present. He couldn't simply stand back and wait for the verdict on their relationship. This was thus a test not only of Emily but of himself. What you're telling me matters, Emily, but it isn't enough. You have to confront those ghosts directly. It's the only way we can begin to earn back trust, he asserted, a fire igniting in his belly. His heart steadied as he leaned into the discomfort. This wasn't merely a path for her. It was when he too needed to step out and face the messiness of love and decision-making. And if it means breaking it all down to build something stronger, then let's do it. A flicker of determination sparked in Emily's eyes. She nodded slowly, and though uncertainty still lay in the air, the tension felt different, more alive, as though they stood on the precipice of discovery. As they each took a breath, the reality of what came next loomed. Jake felt the deepening challenges of love, not just as entwined souls, but as individuals grappling with their distinct pasts and potential futures. The expansive terrain, thick with complexity, welcomed them both to explore. Then let's start now, he urged, not entirely certain where the journey would lead, but convinced they had no choice but to continue down this path together. And as they began peeling back layers of Emily's past, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that their next step would either shatter the fragile bond they were forging or illuminate a deeper connection than either had dared to imagine. The stakes felt high, and with each layer revealed, the question hung heavy. Would they emerge as two transformed souls, or fall apart under the weight of the truths discovered? The air grew heavy with a mixture of tension and resolve as Jake and Emily prepared to confront the labyrinth of her past. Jake recognized that this moment was not just a pivotal juncture for Emily, but an essential test of his own capacity for understanding and acceptance. The words shared between them would shape the trajectory of their relationship, directing them either towards illumination or potential devastation. "Okay," she said, her voice gaining a steadiness that surprised him. "If you're willing to face this with me, I'll do my best to be honest, but it won't be easy." He couldn't help but admire her bravery. This chapter of their lives, fraught with uncertainty, was fraught with risks, yet it also presented a chance for profound growth. The urgency of her convictions sparked something within him. He felt a wave of determination wash over him, not only for her, but for himself as well. As an educator, he had always preached the value of confronting one's shortcomings. It was time to embody that philosophy fully. "So, what do we start with?" he asked, gently prodding her forward, trying to diffuse the immense pressure radiating from the moment. Emily took a deep breath and cursed under her breath, her eyes narrowing as she gathered her thoughts. "There was a particular group of people I associated with. They were charming and captivating, but I lost myself in them. They took advantage of my insecurities, and I did things I'm not proud of, things that I thought would make me feel special, even if only for a moment." As she spoke, red flags flared in Jake's mind. Instinctively, he felt his heart race. Her past actions threatened to cast long shadows over their attempts at rebuilding. "What kinds of things, Emily? You need to tell me so we can move forward." Her gaze dropped to the floor, and for a moment, he feared that she would retreat into silence once again. But the flicker of determination remained. "I got involved with a criminal group. I thought I was helping people, but I was just throwing myself deeper into their mess. I didn't fit into their world, yet I craved acceptance so badly that I blinded myself to the damage." Each revelation felt like a jagged rock clawing at Jake's heart. His mind raced, battling between the images she painted and the woman who stood before him, fragile yet fierce. Could he truly accept the entirety of who she was? It surrounded him like a fog, uncertainty, frustration, fear, yet intertwined with the residue of hope. "Was there ever a moment you realized it was wrong?" he asked, seeking clarity amidst the storm of emotions. Emily bit her lip, considering. "Yes, but it came late. I was tangled in a web of lies, believing that I could escape unscathed. The truth is, I didn't want to believe that I was capable of hurting others this way. I was scared to confront that part of me. Her honesty struck a chord deep within Jake. It mirrored his own struggles with vulnerability. How often had he buried his feelings beneath layers of performance, afraid to confront the messy truths within? He knew this journey required a radical transformation, not just for Emily, but for both of them. And allowing that to define your future isn't an option. You can't believe you're destined to repeat those mistakes, he urged, his voice steady but firm. A look flickered across Emily's face, something akin to understanding mingled with disbelief. Do you really believe that, after everything? He didn't hesitate. Yes, because recognizing your flaws is the first step toward change. If we accept each other wholly, we can create a future that holds space for growth. This conversation is our foothold. The vulnerability exchanged between them felt like a fragile promise, one that risked shattering with the slightest misstep. No more evading the truths, no more hiding from the boundaries of their shared reality. As they navigated through the past, Jake felt a flicker of renewed purpose igniting within him. There was a chance to confront his own layers too. He could no longer afford to hide behind the walls he constructed for safety. It was now or never for both of them. As their words echoed, a thought occurred to him. What if amidst their exploration they uncovered something far more profound, not just about each other, but about themselves? Each revelation laid bare a sense of raw potential beneath the rubble, but with every truth unearthed, Jake understood the stakes were impossibly high. Would they emerge transformed by mutual understanding or bear the scars of unresolved conflict? With that uncertainty gnawing at the edges of his consciousness, he turned to her, ready to dig deeper into the chaos of her past. It was a daunting quest that would reveal unexpected gems or irreparable flaws. And uncertain of what lay ahead, he took a deep breath and asked, "So, what's next, Emily? Are you ready to confront who you really are?" Emily looked at him, her expression both pained and resolute. This was the moment where the veil of her past would be lifted, and whether it brought clarity or chaos was yet to be seen. She swallowed hard, a mix of regret and determination dancing in her eyes. "I think it's time we talk about Michael." The name hung in the air, thick with implication. Jake's heart thudded audibly in his chest. Who was Michael? As she held his gaze, he could see the internal battle taking place within her. The ground beneath them felt unsteady, but he resolved to remain anchored. Michael was my confidant, my protector, or so I thought. I began relying on him for support when I felt lost, and that was my first mistake. He had a way of making everything seem justified, turning the wrong into something I chose to believe was right. She paused, searching for the right words. He wasn't anything close to the good friend I needed. Fury and confusion surged in Jake. "What do you mean? Were you romantically involved?" "No," she interjected quickly, shaking her head. "Not in that way. It was more emotional. He preyed on my insecurities, which made me vulnerable to his manipulation. At first, it felt like I'd found a friend who truly understood me, but he took advantage of my fragility. I lost sight of who I was while trying to be someone I thought he could love." Each revelation chipped away at Jake's insides. "So, this relationship was toxic. Why didn't you walk away sooner?" Emily drew in a shaky breath. "I thought I could change him. I thought that if I showed him the best parts of myself, he would reciprocate. Instead, he just found ways to keep me trapped." As she spoke, Jake recognized shades of his own struggles. Wasn't he too guilty of seeking validation through others? The parallels in their experiences started to unfold, pushing him to confront emotions buried beneath his facade. How many times had he codependently relied on his relationships, losing sight of his own needs? "Do you still feel that bond with him? Because if you do, this isn't going to work," he pressed, feeling both anxious and resolute. The vulnerability in Emily's eyes began to shift. "I made a choice," she admitted, tears glistening at the corners. "I ended it, and it broke me into pieces, but it taught me to value myself. If I had stayed, I would still be lost, chasing after approval." The fierce strength in her voice surprised him. Though the past had haunted her, Here was evidence of her evolution, a direct confrontation of not only her former self, but also their shared experiences and lessons. Each word reinforced the bridge they were building towards growth. Jake nodded slowly, feeling a swell of admiration alongside the continued uncertainty. It takes courage to walk away from relationships that drain rather than uplift. Acknowledging that can be a catalyst in itself. Exactly. But it's still hard. The scars remain. I'm learning to live with them. Her voice trembled slightly, but her resolve shone through the cracks. What do we do with those scars? He asked, feeling the weight of responsibility as both a partner and a guide. Maybe we embrace them. Understand that they're part of our stories, Emily answered, again meeting his gaze with a blend of vulnerability and defiance. Jake grasped the significance of her words, recognizing that their journey through the murky waters of the past was forging both his path and hers. Then let's build our story together, he proposed, feeling a newfound commitment taking root in his heart. But before they could fully grasp the potential of their mutual vow, a sudden knock interrupted them. A shadow loomed at the door, a figure that had once loomed large in Emily's life. Jake stiffened, sensing the urgency of an unforeseen confrontation. "Who is it?" he asked, the tension crystallizing in his voice. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. "It's Michael!" The decision loomed large. Would they stand united, ready to confront the shadows of her past? Jake felt the stakes rise impossibly high, teetering at the edge of a new chapter fraught with danger and discovery. Jake felt his throat tighten as the weight of Emily's past materialized at the door. Here was Michael, the man who had cast a long shadow over her journey to self-acceptance. Emily's face transformed, an unsettling blend of trepidation and resolve, and Jake grasped instinctively for her hand, hoping to draw strength from their connection. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly, his voice steady, yet laced with urgency. Their unspoken pledge from moments ago pulsed in the air between them, but now it bristled with uncertainty. Emily nodded, though her eyes shimmered with doubt. "I have to face him," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "This is about closure." As she moved toward the door, Jake's heart raced with anxious thoughts, each one a reminder of the disarray Michael represented. What confrontations awaited them? What memories would surface in the wake of this encounter? Jake stepped forward, placing himself protectively in front of Emily as the door swung open. Michael stood there, confident and casual, as if he were merely a visitor coming to check in on an old friend. The air crackled with unresolved tension, and Jake felt an instinctual surge of possessiveness for Emily. "Michael," Emily stated, pulling her shoulders back, trying to claim the space with her presence. "We need to talk." "Of course, Emily." "It's been a while," he replied, his voice smooth with an undercurrent of mocking familiarity. Jake noticed the immediate shift in Emily's demeanor, a flicker of discomfort crossing her features as memories threatened to resurface like a tsunami. Jake intervened, unwilling to allow the past to consume them. "You're not welcome here, Michael," he asserted, his tone strong but measured. It was a warning and a declaration of intent. He was ready to defend the woman beside him, bolstering her newfound strength. Michael's gaze flicked between them, sizing up the new dynamic. "I see you've found a little bodyguard now," he quipped, but the casual facade couldn't mask the tension simmering underneath. "We both need to leave the past behind," Emily interjected, her voice now stronger. "I'm ready to move on, but you have to understand, you can't manipulate me anymore. You lost that right." The look of incredulity on Michael's face cut through the air. "You think it's that simple? You're still the same lost girl I knew." "No, I'm not," she interrupted, her eyes fierce. Jake watched as Emily began to own her narrative, reclaiming her voice with every syllable. "I fought too hard to silence that part of myself. I want to live for me now, not for your approval." As realization dawned on Michael, Jake felt the tension shift. It was Emily's moment, and he remained a steadfast presence at her side. With each word she spoke, the grip Michael had on her slowly began to loosen, revealing the resilience she had nurtured. Yet beneath her confidence, Jake sensed a fine tremor of nerves. This confrontation was a battlefield, one where scars would resurface. He needed to be more than just a witness. He knew he had to bolster her strength. But how could he do that without taking the reins from her? "Perhaps it's time for you to respect her decision, Michael," Jake said, his voice unwavering. "Instead of trying to dictate her feelings, maybe you should listen for once." The challenge hung thick. Emily appeared momentarily unsteady, but a flicker of gratitude ignited in her eyes. Michael opened his mouth, then closed it, torn between anger and disbelief. "You really believe you can just shut me out of your life?" The intensity of the room spiked, the stakes higher than ever. As Emily held her ground, Jake worried about what might come next. Would Michael retaliate, revealing hidden truths or twisting the narrative in an attempt to revert Emily to her former self? "Absolutely," Emily affirmed, holding Michael's gaze with unyielding certainty. "I'm choosing freedom over your chains." With each passing moment, Jake felt a new energy rising within him. It was more than protection. It was an understanding of their shared power. The layering of their experiences would not only shield them, but propel them forward. But as Michael's expression morphed from disbelief to something darker, Jake's instincts screamed that the battle was far from over. Change was in the air, and he knew they were teetering on the brink of a profound transformation, one that could either shatter their resolve or solidify it. Jake sensed the next move was crucial. Could they successfully navigate this minefield of emotions and emerge intact, or would Michael's attempt to reclaim control splinter their tenuous connection? Just as the tension reached its peak, Michael stepped forward, a storm brewing in his eyes. "Let's see how strong you really are," he challenged, drawing them both deeper into conflict, making Jake question whether they were prepared for the storm that lay ahead. Emily stiffened, her breath catching at Michael's words, while Jake stepped closer, instinctively shielding her from the palpable threat. The air felt electric, alive with tension, and he could feel the pulse of Emily's heart quicken beside him. He glanced at her, searching for reassurance. Her resolve flickered like a fragile flame caught in a gust of wind, yet Jake could see a spark of defiance glinting in her eyes. Michael smirked, feeding off their disarray. "You think you've grown so much? Maybe it's time you realize how weak you really are beneath that bravado." His tone dripped with condescension, and suddenly the room felt impossibly small, every inch echoing their intertwined histories and unspoken truths. Jake's mind raced. This was more than just a confrontation. It was a test of Emily's evolution. He had felt her transformation over the past months. She was stronger, braver, but this moment would define whether that change was enduring. Yet, as Michael prowled, Jake was unsure how best to support her without overstepping. "Stop talking about her like that," Jake spat, his voice low and dangerous, an edge of protective fury lurking in his inflection. "You've already lost your grip on her." Michael turned his steely gaze toward Jake. "You're the proverbial knight in shining armor, but do you really think she needs saving? Or are you just another way for her to escape the mess she can't face?" The insinuation cut deep, and Jake felt a pang of doubt. Was he merely a distraction for Emily? But before he could spiral into self-reflection, he caught a glimpse of Emily's expression. Her face was a canvas of determination, a realization dawning that this battle was as much hers as it was Jake's. "Michael," she said firmly, breaking the standoff. "The truth is, I've started to find my strength, my voice, and I won't allow you to turn me back into someone I'm not. This isn't about escaping, it's about reclaiming what's rightfully mine." Jake watched as she stood a little taller, her words gaining momentum, cascading into a crescendo of empowerment. Each syllable struck out against the darkness of her past, illuminating the path she now claimed as her own. It was awe-inspiring. In that instant, he understood. She had the tools she needed. They just needed to be unfurled. But Michael wasn't backing down. His eyes flashed with anger, and as he stepped toward her, Jake instinctively shifted between them. "You don't know who you're dealing with," Michael spat, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper, barely containing his ire. "Don't pretend this is all in your control." "Watch me," Emily replied, and there was a steady resolve in her tone that gave Jake hope, a glimmer of a future unmarred by her past. Jake fought the urge to take charge, to protect her from this confrontation. Instead, he focused on being the anchor she could lean on. Tell him, Emily. Tell him what you want. The words opened a floodgate of courage. I want to live without someone like you, Emily declared, her voice ringing clear and fearless. I want to own my life and write my own story. A brief flicker of doubt crossed Michael's face, one Jake seized upon. This moment was pivotal, for Emily and for himself. Would he allow fear to dictate his next action, or could he trust the inseparable bond they had forged through adversity? Trying to sense an equilibrium, Jake tapped into the energy building around them. You're not in control of her anymore, Michael, he added, pushing boundary lines in the sand. You're just a chapter in her life she's closing. This is her narrative now. Michael stepped back, but something flickered. Not defeat, not yet. We'll see about that, he warned, his voice low and cold. Every story has a twist, and this one is just beginning. As he turned and strode toward the door, Emily's breath came quick, uncertainty intertwining with her newfound strength. Jake's heart raced with anticipation, sensing that the conflict wasn't quite over. Michael might have retreated, but the true storm was brewing within Emily. Are you okay? Jake asked, concern threading through his voice, searching for any sign of unease in her struggle for closure. Emily looked up, her eyes searching his, wrestling with the inner tension reigning within her. I thought I was. But now it feels like a challenge I can't back away from. The realization hung heavily between them, a newly forged tension that marked the threshold of profound personal development. In that breath, Jake knew two things. They had emerged from the confrontation, perhaps not unscathed but intact, and the fight for Emily's freedom was not over. It had merely anteed up. As they stood there, the shadows of the past receding behind them, the world before them flickered with possibilities, but the question remained, how prepared were they for what lay ahead? The secrets Michael had buried still simmered, and Jake could feel the rumble of an impending revelation. Would Emily be ready for the truth when it finally came crashing down? Let's face it together, Jake said, squeezing her hand. But deep inside he sensed the winds shifting, the horizon darkened with the promise of complications ahead. They had taken a step forward, but the next move could change everything. Emily's heart raced as she absorbed the aftermath of the confrontation. The air felt thick with uncertainty, a tangible reminder that although she had claimed her voice, the echo of Michael's words still clung like an unwanted shadow. Jake's presence beside her was a balm, yet even his reassurance could not quell the storm brewing inside her. She had chosen to stand her ground, but what did that truly mean? Was she prepared to engage in the complexities of reclaiming her autonomy? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. She longed for clarity, a roadmap to navigate the turbulent waters of her new reality. But first, she needed to confront the truths she had buried deep within herself. Do you really think I can handle this? Emily's voice broke the silence, a mix of vulnerability and determination surfacing in her tone. She turned to Jake, searching his eyes for the steadfast reassurance she craved. You already are, he replied firmly. You stood up to him. That took guts, Em. Trust that strength to keep pushing forward, but don't shy away from asking for help when you need it. Jake's belief in her ignited a flicker of confidence, yet the insecurities of her past whispered doubts in her ear. What made her so different now? She could still feel the sting of Michael's insults digging into her pride. She shifted her weight, fighting to keep her composure. Facing him is one thing. What if I have to confront my feelings? This isn't just about him, Jake. It's about everything I've ever believed about myself. That's exactly why you need to, he encouraged, sensing her internal struggle. You have to unpack all of that piece by piece. Every moment is a choice, Emily. Please don't let fear dictate those choices. As she contemplated his words, memories flooded her, moments where she had cowered, moments where she had surrendered her power. She had allowed Michael's manipulative tactics to control her for too long. I have to stop measuring my worth against his expectations. If I want to grow, I need to acknowledge my truth, embrace it. Jake nodded, a proud smile breaking across his face. That's the spirit. Dig deep. Embrace every part of yourself. Every struggle you faced shaped who you are today. Emily squared her shoulders, her resolve strengthening. I need to address what happened when I was with Michael. I've been too afraid to confront those memories, but if I want to claim my narrative, I have to own them. How can I move forward without recognizing the past? The thought electrified her. Emily envisioned herself diving into the labyrinth of her memories, not to relive the trauma, but to understand how it had woven itself into the tapestry of her identity. She could transform the pain into power. Just then, a plan began to take form in her mind. I'm going to write it all down. I want to unravel my experiences, piece together the jagged edges of who I was, and then I'll show it to you. I don't want to hide from it anymore. Your story deserves to be told, and seeing it all laid out will give you perspective, Jake responded, inspired by her newfound energy. No more hiding. You're ready to take control of your narrative. The thought of articulating her journey seemed daunting yet exhilarating. Each word could breathe life into the healing process, weaving resilience into her narrative. And while Michael's return loomed on the horizon, she wouldn't let it shatter the peace she was beginning to cultivate. But as they stood together, the gravity of her decision sank in. The act of writing would unearth memories she had fought to bury, and they could unleash emotions that threatened to engulf her. Was she truly prepared to face those hidden facets of herself? Suddenly, Jake's phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from engagement to concern. It's Michael. He's already trying to reach out. I can't let him disrupt this moment for you, he said, tensing. Emily inhaled sharply, the realization of their ongoing confrontation solidifying her resolve. The past would always lurk, but she had the power to shape its influence, and she wasn't about to let fear dictate her story any longer. Let's confront him together, but on my terms, she declared with newfound grit. Her pulse quickened at the weight of her reaffirmed stance, but the clock was ticking, and the twists of fate were only beginning to unfold. With a single decision, she was about to step into a new chapter, one that could irrevocably alter the course of her life. As she prepared to navigate this unknown territory, a fierce competitiveness ignited within her. Would she have the strength to face the complexities of her past and emerge unscathed? The path ahead could very well shift everything she believed about herself, but one thing was clear. The time had come to reclaim her narrative, and she was ready to own it, however messy it might be. Jake watched Emily with a sense of awe as she stood before him, determined to embrace her journey, equipped with both vulnerability and resolve. The air around them shifted, charged with potential. He no longer saw just the woman he loved, but an individual ready to redefine herself, stripping away the layers of fear that had once clouded her identity. It's time, Emily, he prompted gently, stepping closer, creating a protective barrier against the looming shadows of her past. Let's step into this together. We'll face whatever the future holds. Emily inhaled deeply, her gaze steadying as she nodded. I'm ready to confront every part of who I am. No more running. Her voice held a conviction that resonated deeply with Jake, igniting a flicker of pride within him for the woman she was becoming. They sat together, creating a space of trust between them, as she began to articulate the unspoken truths that had lingered for too long in the shadows. Writing it down will give me clarity. I need to connect the dots and bring light to the darkness. As her pen moved across the page, each word spilled forth like drops of paint on a canvas, each story a brushstroke revealing the depth of her struggle. She began recounting the moments when she had felt lost within Michael's grip, the ways he had manipulated her sense of self-worth, crafting a facade that had shielded the real Emily. Jake leaned in, captivated not just by her words, but by the strength pouring from her soul as she dissected the ugly truth of past relationships and personal choices. He started to see the evolution, not just in her narrative, but in himself. In that moment, he realized this journey was about more than confronting her past. It was about mutual growth. They were forging their identities anew, hand in hand. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's writing transformed into a powerful exploration of resilience and redemption. Together, they spent evenings deliberating over her reflections, her heart laid bare on the pages. Each new revelation sparked discussions about their shared dreams, values, and aspirations, solidifying the intimacy of their connection. "By facing my past, I've learned to appreciate my present," Emily remarked one evening, the weight of her journey lifting as hope replaced doubt. "I can't say I'm entirely healed, but I'm comfortable claiming who I am, flaws and all." Jake smiled, feeling the warmth of admiration swell within him. "You've come further than so many could have imagined. You've confronted what once kept you trapped, and you did it on your own terms. That's a remarkable achievement." The resolve between them deepened as Emily continued to grow more confident, recognizing the opponent within was far more challenging than Michael could ever be. Each time she wrote about the struggles imposed by her past, her fears diminished. Eventually, the day arrived when they could no longer postpone confronting Michael directly. With their narrative fortified, Jake and Emily agreed to face him together, ensuring their bond remained unbreakable. The stakes were high, but Jake felt renewed confidence in both Emily and himself. As they entered the room where the confrontation would take place, a sense of calm washed over Emily. She was standing tall, no longer the woman who had hidden from her fears, but someone ready to assert her narrative. "I won't allow you to manipulate or intimidate me anymore, Michael. I am not that person." Jake's heart swelled with pride as he stood beside her, ready to support her in whatever form that might take. "We are not shackled to the past. Emily owns her story now, and no one can take that from her," he added, his voice unwavering. Michael scoffed, but the tension that once filled the air seemed to falter under Emily's resilience. The history that had bound them slowly began to lift as she reclaimed her power, speaking her truth and deflating the shadows that had loomed for far too long. As they walked away from that confrontation, Jake felt an overwhelming sense of triumph wash over them. Emily had shown remarkable growth, and in doing so, she had demonstrated an undeniable resilience. The past no longer controlled her. It had transformed into a story of empowerment and triumph, woven beautifully into the narrative of both their lives. Weeks later, Jake and Emily stood together at a teaching conference, where Emily would present her journey of transformation to an audience eager for personal stories of hope. This was her moment to show the world how overcoming one's past creates new pathways toward future strength. "You're ready," Jake assured her, as they entered the auditorium, feeling the energy crackle in the room. "You've worked hard to reach this point. Your journey is your power." With a deep breath, Emily stepped confidently onto the stage. The lights brightened, illuminating her as she prepared to share her truth, and all the doubts vanished. She felt solid in her confidence and recognized her competence. Jake watched, pride swelling within him, knowing that she had conquered not only her fears, but had also forged a path towards personal achievement that rendered her more formidable than ever. She was a testament to resilience, and it inspired him profoundly. As her speech unfolded, the audience erupted with applause, each clapping hand a reminder of her victory over the shadows of her past. They were no longer lingering, but had transformed into stepping stones toward a brighter future. At that moment, Jake understood the depth of their individual evolutions. Emily had claimed her identity, and in doing so he had discovered his own latent strength. Teaching and guiding others was not just a profession for him, it had become a part of his own narrative filled with purpose and recognition. And as they walked out hand in hand into a dazzling future, he could feel the promise of new beginnings. He realized they had not only grown as individuals, but had fortified their bond, a unity paralleled by the strength of their authentic selves. They embraced the road ahead, no longer shackled to their past, but confidently stepping forward with a sagacity born of trials overcome. The sun warmed their faces, the promise of a fresh chapter glowing brightly before them. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, together. Now you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support it all. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.